They can run. They're very athletic. They can steal base. They can put pressure on in the short game. They can hit the ball out of the park. You name it. There's a lot of different ways they can beat you. So we're going to have to play. We've played 26 games. We're going to have to play better than we've played in those 26.
We're a work in progress, and we're making progress. And if we'll continue to do that, we're going to be okay. Because the one thing is we make each other better every day. There's nowhere to hide on our practice field. And if you try to hide, you get exposed real quick.
All right, we got a couple of APBs out this afternoon to open things up here on Sports Talk. We need your help. If you can locate these people for us, give us a call, 800-956-7266. The first is for USC quarterback Connor Mitch. According to tweets coming from media types out at practice today, he's not there. So the Gamecocks have two quarterbacks doing the quarterbacking, McElwain and Scarnecchia.
Can't have but one at a time.
Now, maybe he's away for academic reasons. Maybe he's away for personal reasons. Who knows? But he's not there. Maybe we'll get an answer on that after practice. The other APB goes out to the person to whom the Spurs up from Will Muschamp was meant for last night.
That was meant for me.
That person has not been identified, at least. Now, I did see on one of the websites where one of the self-proclaimed insiders apparently knows who this person is. He just hasn't gone public with a commitment yet, and this person's not reporting who this person is. So that's what your money goes for these insiders, boy. It's it's a good buy. It's good for them. They get to find out the information. They just don't share it with you, the buyer. I don't know who it is. The Gamecocks apparently, if that's what the Spurs up was about, they apparently have a commitment from somebody who has not yet gone public with that commitment. So we all wait and see. But if you are, here's the thing. Somebody out there, besides an insider, knows he's that person. So what I'm saying is, if you are that person, the number to call is 800-956-7266. Come forward and be identified here on Sports Talk.
Or you can be like the kid in California and just set up a phony press conference and say, yeah, I was the guy today.
This isn't phony. This is the real. Unless, when Muschamp, when he sends out a Spurs up, it's real. It's the real deal. So anyway, that's how we get things rolling for you tonight here on Sports Talk. Another great show for you. I want to remind you now, if you're driving home listening to us, we are not to be left inside the car like, say, your puppy that you forget about with the windows rolled up and it's 110 degrees.
Come on now.
Take us inside with you. We travel well. Take us out of your car, into your home, and into your heart. We got a lot of stuff for you. We'll be right back. And we're back, Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. Phone number 800-956-7266. Email talkback@sportstalksc.com and on Twitter at sportstalksc. The website, sportstalksc.com. And on Facebook, it is Sports Talk Radio Network. Lines are open if you want to join early in the program. Love to have you with us to hear what you have to say. Questions or comments or observations, platitudes or criticisms, all accepted here on Sports Talk every night of the week. Coming up in a little bit, Mike Morgan will drop by. Some things happening in the Braves world. We'll get his take on that, find out what else he has to say about the Final Four, SEC baseball, the big series, of course, USC and Vanderbilt hopefully beginning tonight in Nashville. It's raining in Nashville right now, and there's some big storms moving through the middle part of Tennessee there, and that could affect things. The first pitch is scheduled for 8 o'clock Eastern time on ESPNU, a matchup of two teams, one ranked number 2, one ranked number 3, depending on which poll you go by. Two teams with excellent pitching staffs, two teams that are hitting the ball well with some power. Vandy in particular can steal a base as well. USC in particular is playing great defense, fielding at a 9.78 clip. That's spectacular. USC 23-3 and Vanderbilt 21-4. They have won 4 in a row. USC had won 13 in a row before losing to College of Charleston on Tuesday night. On the mound tonight for USC, Clark Schmidt, sophomore right-hander, 6-0, 1.29 ERA. He's worked 42 innings, 51 strikeouts, and 6 walks. Pretty amazing. Right-hander Jordan Sheffield, a sophomore, will start for Vanderbilt. 3-1, 2.21 ERA. He's worked 36 and 2/3 innings, 51 strikeouts, 17 walks. And comparing the numbers of the two staffs, certainly Vanderbilt has hard throwers. They lead the SEC as a staff in strikeouts, but they tend to be a little wild. They've given up a lot of walks, they've hit a lot of batters, and they've thrown a lot of wild pitches. I guess you get that when you throw as hard as they do as a staff. Braden Webb starts for USC on Friday against right-hander Kyle Wright, who's 4-0, 1.37 ERA. And then on Saturday is Adam Hill for USC, freshman righty. Vandy has not named its Saturday starter. Hill, 5-0, 1.91 ERA. I mean, the Gamecocks' 3 starters on the weekend, they just have glowing numbers. The only negative is the 19 walks that Webb has given up so far this year. Other than that, those 3 guys have just been spectacular to this point, and they're going to need it this weekend.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and of course, you really want the team to play, I would say probably a minimum of 9 games in your conference, because then you know everybody's got the book on you. And if you can still strike them out and get them out, then you know you got some guys with some quality stuff. That's the key, because you know guys already are doing their homework. These guys have to have a chink in the armor. Let's find it.
Yeah.
Let's see it.
Well, these are two teams that have been recruited extremely well, and they recruit nationally to get some of the best players in the country. South Carolina, after struggling at the plate last year, it's pretty obvious that they have a very strong offensive-minded team this year. The junior college guys that they brought in really have been a boost. The performance behind the plate of Chris Cullen has been outstanding for a true freshman. He has really sealed things there. That was a weakness last year. So no doubt they're much improved. Also, USC showing a lot of heart in that they're not afraid to come from behind and pull out a victory or two. But their thing here of late, especially in SEC play, has been jumping on you early. They're really outscoring opponents by a big number in the early innings, and we'll see if that happens against Vanderbilt beginning tonight. That is the only game involving a state team in South Carolina, the South Carolina Vandy game. That's the only game involving a state team tonight in college baseball. A couple of other notes to pass along to you, and interesting day on a number of different fronts. Frank Martin and USC's Board of Trustees, they've called a meeting for 1 o'clock tomorrow to discuss and approve a contract extension for Frank Martin. the university put out the word that there is a Board of Trustees meeting tomorrow, and GoGamecocks.com reporting that the purpose of the meeting is to discuss the contract for Martin. Martin in the fourth year of a 6-year contract now. He has completed 4 out of 6, so he's got 2 years left. And GoGamecocks.com previously reported that Ray Tanner had already offered a 4-year extension to Martin to get him back to the 6 years on the deal. That would keep him at USC through 2022. This year made over $2.1 million. Also from USC, how about this story? This has to go down truly as one of the craziest stories of the sports year. Now, I know the sports year is still young, but this is wacko. This story was written originally by a reporter in New Orleans. He broke this story earlier today, Ron Higgins from the Times-Picayune. And then after the story came out, it went national and forced the NCAA to respond. In the nutshell, the original story was that on Selection Sunday, USC was contacted by the NCAA and was informed that they were in the tournament, and that they would get a call back.
Mm-hmm.
That call back never came.
Mm-hmm.
And so when that story went public, the NCAA had to come public as well. And so the vice president of men's basketball championships, Dan Gavitt, he responded with a statement that reads like this, quote, "Unfortunately, during the selection show, a junior men's basketball staff member, couldn't be a senior, had to be somebody stupid like a junior." That's my addition to his statement. Mistakenly sent a text to a member of the University of South Carolina Athletics Department staff via an app we used for the first time during the 2016 tournament. The text was supposed to go to all teams, congratulating them for making the tournament. Regrettably, a text meant for another institution went to South Carolina instead. While the Gamecocks were given serious consideration, he continues, at no time during the selection process was South Carolina voted into the field. Ultimately, they were one of the last 4 teams left out of the tournament. I take full responsibility for this clerical error and apologize to Coach Martin, his staff, and team, and the entire University of South Carolina community.
Now, South Carolina community can take heart in if the next part of the story is true. Then you can say you are really the USC, because now we're hearing that they were supposed to be contacting USC, Southern California, and they mistakenly contacted South Carolina.
Yeah.
I will go, what is it, the Rasheed Wallace route on this explanation. Rasheed Wallace, as you remember, anytime he committed a foul that he thought was not a foul, guy missed a free throw, he'd say, ball don't lie. In fact, he got a technical for doing that one. Maybe the phone didn't lie, and the phone made you call the team that deserved to be in the tournament, and that was South Carolina. So the phone didn't lie.
Well, part of the Higgins story was that the selection committee took Vanderbilt. Let me see if I make sure I get this right. Put Vanderbilt in there ahead of South Carolina because of the tenuous coaching situation there at Tennessee for Kevin Stallings.
You mean
as one of the last? Yeah, I'm sorry, right. Vandy. As one of the last teams in the field, he said it looked like, as he wrote here, it looked like the committee gave Vanderbilt the gift of an invitation as one of the last teams in and saved Kevin Stallings' job. Then he goes on to say, even that invite was in question because sources told me that the person that makes the travel arrangements had actually called South Carolina, told them they had been invited, and to hold on, they would get a call back in 10 minutes. Of course, that call never came in. We'll be right back. One more little twist to the Kevin Stallings story there at Vanderbilt and now Pittsburgh. The CEO of the company that handled Pittsburgh's search for a replacement for Jamie Dixon, the CEO is former Vandy AD Todd Turner, who was the man that hired Stallings at Vanderbilt. By the way, Eddie Fogler is working as a consultant to Vandy to help them find the replacement for Kevin Stallings. He'd be smart to go across the street and hire Rick Byrd from Belmont. I mean, all he's done is win 639 games in his career, but he is 60 years old, and the word is that they want to go younger at Vanderbilt with this hire.
Well, go to King Rice, who was assistant there.
Yes, that's right.
Get it from Monmouth.
Get it from Monmouth. And take Rick Callahan.
And take Rick Callahan would go back to Nashville.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, my goodness. K-Mac passes along word. K-Mac is still out. He's feeling better. He's well enough to function now. Other 2 days of the week since Monday. He was here Monday, right? Tuesday, Wednesday, not functioning. Is functioning today. Should be back tomorrow. He found out that, according to a source of ours, that Connor Mitch is not at practice because he's sick. He's ill. So that's why he is not at practice today. To the phones we go, 800-956-7266. Delvin in Fountain Inn. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great. First of all, how about Middle Tennessee State coach Kermit Davis as a candidate for Vanderbilt? But about this whole debacle is just ridiculous. I mean, for the NCAA come out do that, that's just like them. I hate to break up bad mirror for you, Phil. Just like the NFL calling the women at practice after that old failed Mary playing. Apologize, said they got the wrong call. It's too late now.
Yeah, I mean, you know, they just made a mistake. Somebody, an underling, made a mistake. Somehow he got his signals crossed, whether it was USC, or Carolina, or whatever he was told, and whatever was on that list, he just got it confused. It's unfortunate because, I mean, somebody over at USC thought they were getting in to the tournament and apparently, obviously, spread the word until they found out otherwise. So you go from that high to the lowest of lows as a college basketball player. So you hate it for them. It's better not to know at all. If that's the case, it's better not to be contacted at all if you're not going to get in.
Yeah, and think about it, they could have made plans and stuff. They could have been starting, like, making plans for travel to whatever city they were going to go to and stuff. And then you find out that you're not going, then you had to cancel all the plans and stuff. I mean, and I don't think the underling did that. I think the NCAA did that. They try to blame it on somebody. That's what I think it is. Well,
it was pretty cold, the other part of the statement at the end. I mean, he was direct and right to the point when he said, of course, now maybe, well, there's no saving. He's not trying to save anybody's hide here. But, I mean, he said South Carolina was never in the tournament. According to the release, that the committee had never voted South Carolina into the tournament. They were one of the first four out. So even though somebody made a mistake in sending them a text saying that they were in the tournament, they were never in the tournament. So it's not like they were in and they contacted them and then they took them out. They were never in, according to Gavitt. They were never in the
still say it's crazy that you're in a top 5 conference and the team that's third in your conference don't get in. That's ridiculous.
Well, yeah, and a team that you beat did get in. You know, they should have been in. This isn't the argument about whether or not they should have been in. It's just the fact that somebody made an error. Be right back. Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network, and we're presented by the National Wild Turkey Federation. You can help make the world a better place through conservation of North America's greatest game bird and the preservation of our hunting heritage by joining the NWTF. Find out how at nwtf.org/rise and fly. All right, coming up, we'll hear from the Gamecocks once they come off the practice field. I do believe Will Muschamp is going to talk with the media today, so we'll have that covered for you. Also, coming up a little bit later on, Clemson baseball coach Monty Lee will be here. The Tigers going 2-0 so far this week. They play host to Pittsburgh for an ACC series coming up this weekend. And also more from Clemson's scrimmage yesterday. We'll hear from defensive coordinator Brent Venables on the program tonight. So a lot of good stuff to come your way, including our Thursday night visit right now with our good friend Mike Morgan. Mike, brought to you by Founders Federal Credit Union here on Sports Talk. And we welcome Mike into the program. So have you ever heard of a crazier story than this NCAA and the selection committee and them calling the Gamecocks and then saying, oops, sorry, wrong number?
Yeah. First off, I just want to say I'm honored to be in a segment that's sponsored by a live turkey.
Yes.
Yes.
As a matter of fact, we saved that just for your appearance.
I appreciate that.
You can maybe, perhaps you can draw a connection.
Yeah, I kind of have, actually. I don't think that's a coincidence, but I've been called much worse. I appreciate that.
Of course, when I think of you and I think of wild turkey, I think more of the liquid variety.
Mm-hmm.
I could use a shot of that during some of these segments, but you haven't offered yet, so we'll keep it a dry segment. It's obviously it's an embarrassment. There's a lot of egg on the face of the NCAA committee already, considering the bracket got leaked out, which in a lot of ways was a good thing because it saved us from watching that never-ending tournament selection show on CBS, which was nothing short of water torture to have to endure all that. But it's not good. It doesn't show a very well organized plan. And again, if this was a team that was not on the bubble and you would have sent it, it would have been an obvious mistake. But most people, myself included, thought South Carolina would get in. So to have that come out now, it's just another kind of kick in the crotch, if you will, to have that if you're Frank Martin and company. But obviously it's an honest mistake. There's no foul play or anything, but it's still embarrassing nonetheless.
Yeah, absolutely. And Frank Martin, the Board of Trustees, tomorrow they're going to get together. Well, Frank won't be here. He'll be in Houston, I think. Went to Houston yesterday. But anyway, they're going to give him his contract extension, probably 4 years, tie him back up for 6 more years through 2022. And that's a good thing. He's built I think a solid program. And he's proven he can win. He's just got to get past, that little hurdle that for whatever reason kept him out of the tournament this year. And word came out today that South Carolina is going to play Seton Hall at Madison Square Garden on December 12th in what's being called the first reunion, Under Armour reunion. It's what I'm getting to here. They're beefing up their non-conference schedule. You throw Seton Hall in there with Syracuse and Memphis next year and Clemson next year, Mike, and they're taking steps toward getting that non-conference RPI to where it needs to be.
Well, and as much as I thought they should have been in, I don't think anybody should be completely dumbfounded as to why they were not in. The reasons are simple. Number one, they didn't finish strong. 3 losses to Georgia, for opening round loss in the SEC tournament. A loss at Missouri didn't help. And then obviously the non-conference schedule. That was something that I heard talked about going all the way back to January. That was a concern. And to Frank's defense here, a lot of those teams that he scheduled were supposed to be better than what they turned out to be. Mm-hmm. So you can schedule big name schools and think that you've got a pretty respectable out of conference schedule, and then all of them simultaneously have down years, and all of a sudden you don't. And that seemed to be the case this year. But there's a way to be safer about that, and that's a lesson for all SEC coaches that's been handed down by the SEC office now for the last few years, which is do not embarrass yourself or the league by not getting into the tournament because you don't schedule better out of conference. That's in your control. There's some things you can't control. South Carolina had one of the weakest in-conference schedules. You can't control that. They were given what they were given, but they can control. You can't control the first 13 games of the season, and I think there's a lesson learned there that you've got to schedule as tough as you can, because really it's better to lose to a really good team than to beat a team that's, say, RPI number 227. That does nothing for you.
Yeah, you bring up a good point, and that is really the additional shame of it, that they didn't make the tournament because they did catch a break with the league schedule this year, considering they got Kentucky one time at home. They got Florida one time at home.
Vanderbilt.
They got Vanderbilt one time at home. Didn't have to play Memorial Gym. They did play Texas A&M twice, but they got one of those at home. And so, they did catch. They're not going to catch that break next year in all likelihood.
Right. And I actually think that'll be a good thing, because, again, if you could have controlled who you play in conference, I think they would have added a second game against Kentucky. I think they would have added a second game against Vanderbilt and Florida, because, again, even if you lose those games from an RPI standpoint, very often that'll actually help you more than playing a team like, say, Arkansas, that was not very good, RPI, BPI, anything else, or, God forbid, losing another game against Missouri. You want to have a good conference schedule. I can't stand, and I've been very vocal about this, and I've talked to other people about it, about hopefully it'll change. I think most of the coaches do not like it, and that is the current scheduling format. We got away from divisions. I know the motivation was a good one. I don't know if the actual conclusion or the result of it is beneficial to the league or the teams themselves. I think that when you have an unbalanced schedule and nobody knows who they're playing and where and why, and in the case of a South Carolina, you turn in one of the weaker in-conference schedules that's completely out of your control, I don't think that helps anybody. I wish we would go back to a more uniform schedule at some point.
All right, let's turn our attention to the Atlanta Braves. Unfortunately, the season is just about here, and they'll be eliminated, I would imagine, by the latter part of July. But they made some news today with some movement in the front office. John Schuerholz now no longer going to be involved in a day-to-day capacity with the team. He moves from a team president to vice chairman. Mike Plant takes over as president in charge of development. Derek Schiller, president overseeing business. Now, this does not affect John Hart or John Coppolella. Their roles remain the same. So, What does this mean?
Well, I think if you're just a common fan and you're worried about personnel and trades and moves and player evaluations, it doesn't mean anything, because John Schuerholz has kind of been hands off on that anyway. It was Frank Wren, now it's Coppolello, now it's Hart. Those are the guys that are making the draft picks. Those are the guys that are making the trades. John Schuerholz has been kind of an overseer of all that, but to his credit, he's not a micromanager. He's let those guys do their job. I think for the old school Braves fans, you look and you say, wow, John Schuerholz, you can't hear that name and not think of the architect of that great run in the 90s and the early 2000s when they were going to a bunch of World Series. So it's a little bit of a changing of the guard, but really he hasn't been in that role for a while. So the short answer to your question is it's not going to change anything in terms of what's been happening the last few years.
All right, a break is coming up. Can we hold you over for a couple of minutes?
Yeah, sure.
Would you grant us an extension, a contract
as long
extension?
as we can sponsor it by another wild animal like a turkey or a pheasant, whatever it is, I'm glad to stay on.
Yeah, we'll find one for you. You just hang on and we'll come back. All right, Mike Morgan from ESPN, but we think of him more as our own Mike Morgan.
I'll tell you what, Schuerholz has something that these guys don't have.
That is what?
Ted Turner's checkbook.
He did, yeah.
Because Ted Turner, can we get so-and-so? Yeah, but let's get him in here.
That's true.
How much is it?
The tightening of the belt with the Braves is noticeable. I saw where, what's his name? Old guy, outfielder, former Clemson signee. Starting with the Braves.
Frank Coor.
Yeah, Frank Coor. He's going to make the team as a corner outfielder and pinch hitter. Okay, we're back. Sports Talk South Carolina Radio Network, and we like to remind you that whether you are part of Gamecock Nation or you bleed Clemson Orange, everyone can agree on Founders Federal Credit Union with a convenient location at the Russell House on USC's campus, a new location on Highway 93 in Clemson coming soon. Founders is a sure fan favorite. Visit relaxjoinfounders.com to see if you qualify for membership. Founders Federal Credit Union, federally insured by NCUA. Back to Mike. As we go back to Mike, just a couple of quick notes. Stopped raining in Nashville for now, but they've got heavy weather there for sure. Also, Dawn Staley announced sophomore forward Jatari White is transferring out of her program. Jatari White, she was one of those big-time recruits a few years ago, just didn't work out for her in terms of playing time at South Carolina. Of course, she had some pretty good players ahead of her. All right, back to Mike Morgan with us here Thursday nights on Sports Talk. Touched on the race. Well, you heard me kind of stumbling into my comment as we hit the break there about Jeff Francoeur. So looks like he's going to make the team as a reserve outfielder and pinch hitter. I was reading the story. The three guys in the outfield starting for the Braves, I swear I've never heard of any of them. Should I have heard of any of them?
Yes, Oliveira you should have heard of.
Okay. Mike?
Oliveira you should have heard of from last year. Not that he's done enough to prove that he's worth talking about in everyday conversation. That was, of course, a part of the big trade last year, one of the many.
Yeah.
Where they're banking on him to eventually turn into a slugger, a quality hitter, a former Dodger. They invested a lot of money in him in L.A. They finally cut ties with him, and they're hoping now in Atlanta they're going to find solid gold with him. A young guy with pop in his 20s, where they found out he can't play third, so now he's going to be an outfielder. Enciarte is the young man that they got the big Arizona deal, the Shelby Miller trade, who already has shown signs at this level with Arizona that he can be a quality outfielder. To me, he's one of the headliners. And then everybody else, Markakis, Francoeur, Michael Bourne, these might be big names because they've been around. These are almost what I like to call roster fillers, because the future of this team is not in any of those guys. The future of this team and this organization is in guys like Oliveira, Enciarte, former Vanderbilt Commodore Dansby Swanson, who will probably be called up at some point in this season. You've got some really good young pitchers that eventually they hope will be polished enough to pitch this year. Tehran needs to pitch like an ace again. He's going to be one of the franchise guys. Bud Norris, again, is a veteran who needs to pitch like he did 2 years ago and not last year, which he was awful. Whistler is a young stud that they hope to be good. And then, again, Brzezinski's a roster filler who actually played well last year. But let's be honest, okay? This is about 2017, not 2016. And almost every move that they have made in the last 12 months is about that season with the brand new stadium opening up, as opposed to what you're going to see this year, a team that is almost guaranteed to lose over 90 games.
Well, speaking of moves, Foldenavich, one of your favorite names, the reason why they're sending him down at this point?
The reason is he's giving up home runs left and right. He is just serving them up like it's home run derby, and continued to struggle again this spring. And until he figures out how to harness that fastball and come up with a good secondary pitch, he's just not ready to be a major league starter. So they have not gotten what they bargained for yet at a Folty. Now, again, everybody's got a different learning curve. Some guys just take more time. But as of right now, you can't trust him to pitch at this level and be effective.
All right, Mike, about a minute to go. USC and Vanderbilt, hopefully they'll get underway tonight, 8 o'clock on the U. A great matchup, number 2, number 3, great pitching. Both teams loaded on offense as well. Can South Carolina go in there and keep it going in SEC play? They're 6-0 so far.
Well, as you know, I was just in Vandy to do the game against Mississippi State. They lost that series. Vanderbilt did at home. I don't think this is the same caliber of Vanderbilt squad we've seen the last 2 years. Now take that with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
They're good. They've got a bunch of great prospects. Typical Tim Corbin team. They are recruiting guys that everybody else wants in the country, and they're getting them. But I don't see a Carson Fulmer, a guy that's that dominating on the mound. And offensively, while they've got 2 really good outfielders, I don't see that bottom of the lineup being the caliber that it was the last couple of years. I think it'll be a great series. Somebody's going to take 2 out of 3. I seriously doubt you'll see a sweep. But I think either one of these teams could win it because they both have balance with pitching and offense. And when you look at the SEC as a whole, there's only 4 or 5 teams that really have that. The rest are kind of one-dimensional.
All right, 10 seconds. What do you have this weekend on the air?
I actually have a weekend off, and then I'll be coming to see you guys in Columbia doing the South Carolina Coastal game on Tuesday night on the SEC Network.
Great. We'll see you then. Mike Morgan
Okay.
with us here. Sports Talk on a Thursday night. Our visit with Mike Morgan. We'll be right back. All right, let's give you the recruiting news here on this Thursday night. First of all, defensive back Theron Rogers Anderson, Ridgeview, spent much of yesterday at Clemson, and it went very well for him. Had a really good meeting with the Tigers, with Brent Venables, who's looking at several options at safety. They like him as a safety, and he said that they love his ball skills, his physical play. He said the visit really opened his eyes. Right now, Clemson at the top of his list with USC and Old Dominion closely behind. He was at USC's practice to watch on Tuesday. He's been there a few times, and he continues to get a lot of contact from Travaris Robinson and Will Muschamp. Old Dominion remains the only offer for him at this point. He does not have any future visits planned. Now, as I mentioned at the outset of the show, Muschamp sent out the Spurs up alert last night, and everybody I talked to, and I talked to a bunch of USC targets, none of them had committed, but somebody has, and they have not gone public yet. Don't know who it is and don't know when they will. Anyway, one who did not commit was offensive lineman Eric Douglas of Charlotte, but he has cut his list to 5. USC, Florida, Maryland, Penn State, North Carolina. He said that's the focus. Coming off visits to Maryland and Penn State, been to USC multiple times, constant contact with Muschamp and Sean Elliott. Talks to them daily. One thing I'm learning from players at USC's recruiting, Muschamp talks to almost all of them almost every day. I mean, he must live on his phone. Douglas said he's also in daily contact with coaches from his other 4 teams as well. Not sure which upcoming spring games he might attend. Defensive end Tyreek Johnson of Lakewood has been on USC commitment watch for weeks, and he was in today or planned to be in today without his parents to watch practice, so no commitment today, but he plans to return Saturday with parents, and it's then he plans to commit to Muschamp. He has always maintained it's important for him to have his parents with him when he commits. Defensive back Lummy Young of Westside going to North Carolina Saturday, Duke Sunday if possible. He'll stop in at NC State while on Tobacco Road. Defensive end Brad Johnson of Pendleton was at USC's practice Saturday. Gamecocks, he said, continue to recruit him the hardest. He's going to Mississippi State this Saturday. Georgia and Florida are also increasing their interest, and North Carolina's close on an offer as well. Defensive back Trey Shaw of Ellenwood, Georgia, released a top 10 on Wednesday. In no order, it's USC, Clemson, North Carolina, Auburn, Georgia, Michigan, Florida, LSU, Tennessee, and NC State. Athlete Jalen Browder of Dallas, Georgia, offered last night by USC. And in basketball, USC's Frank Martin is involved with Delaware transferring guard Corey Holden. He's a 6'2" point guard who averaged about 18 points per game this season. He's a native of Salisbury, Maryland, and he's a sophomore, so he would have to sit out next season. But he has been in touch with Martin, who he says he talks to about every single day, and he wants him. And he's probably going to visit South Carolina at some point. Top of the hour break. We will be back.
Live from Columbia, this is Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network. Be a part of tonight's show. Call us at 800-956-7266 or email talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, here are your hosts for Sports Talk, Phil Kornbluth, Kevin McCrary, and Tom Hayes.
Okay, we're back. Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network, here on a Thursday night from downtown Columbia, where the weather is a little bit on the overcast side. It's been that way all day. They've been calling for all these storms and stuff, but nothing has happened yet. Perhaps some rain is going to be dropping on our heads here in Columbia and around the state as the evening progresses. And we're brought to you by the National Wild Turkey Federation. You can help make the world a better place through conservation of North America's greatest game bird and the preservation of our hunting heritage by joining the NWTF. Find out how at nwtf.org/rise and fly. One more little recruiting note. Spartanburg Day 2018 standout small forward Zion Williamson was offered by Georgia yesterday. A note out of USC practice. We'll be hearing from Will Muschamp coming up shortly. Another one has bitten the dust at USC. Jalen Christian is transferring out of the program. So that's too bad. Talented player, highly recruited, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But he is leaving. By my count, this is unofficial because I'm not sure about a couple of guys who are on scholarship but came on as walk-ons. For example, Rod Talley. Is he still on scholarship? Darius Polk. Is he still on scholarship? And there may be Drew Williams, long snapper. Is he still on scholarship? These are questions that need to be answered. But if they are still on scholarship, with the most recent departure, that puts the Gamecocks at 59 on scholarship right now, and they've got 24 coming in. So that puts them at 83, 2 under the number.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So they got 2 more, and they're still recruiting.
Well, they would love to get
2 defensive linemen.
the 2 linemen, McDaniel and Coatney.
Mm-hmm.
Still got to wait and see on both of those guys, unless one of those is the reason why the Spurs went up. Who knows? I know you're listening to us, you Spur upper out there. You know who you are. We just don't know who you are. So I'll tell you what, if you want to call in and don't identify yourself and disguise your voice, use one of those apps that changes the sound of your voice, but you can call in and talk about yourself. But then we'll trace the call and find out who you are. Anyway, we'll have Muschamp here coming up in a little bit. Also coming up, we're going to get a report from our good friend John Brooks out at the Shell Houston Open. Last stop before the Masters. Can you believe it's time to go back to Augusta? The greatest week of the year.
Well, we got to wash all this pollen out still before we get to Augusta.
Oh, don't worry. You know the folks in Augusta, they're washing every leaf on every azalea to make sure it's pristine and beautiful and shiny for CBS's cameras to pick up. Yeah, looking forward to a Masters week. Next week here on Sports Talk, we'll have the master of all Masters coverage, Don Williams, once again for us at Augusta National to bring it all home to you here on Sports Talk. We'll be right back. we're back. Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. I mentioned it's Masters Week next week, but before we get to the Masters, we got to get through Houston and the Shell Houston Open. Our good buddy John Brooks is there in Houston, the former voice of the Oklahoma Sooners. When you did the Sooners, did you have a patented touchdown call?
Oh yeah, Jiminy Christmas. Yeah, that was it.
That was it.
Yeah, yeah, it was. There were a lot of Jiminy Christmas during that time, but since Billy Tubbs was the basketball coach, you know, Bill, there was a time there where about a 6-year run where they were top 5 in both, you know, every year at the end of the year. So I was riding in the fast lane. Now the lane got a little slow 28 years ago this coming Monday night because that was the Kansas-Oklahoma final. And that was a great year because I became the first guy ever to broadcast the national title game in both football and basketball in the same school year.
Wow.
Now that's happened twice since, Florida and Ohio State.
Yeah.
But, you know, at the time, and that was the one that was the year where when it was all over, I think most people thought that the best team in the country probably lost the title game, but Kansas got to walk around with the trophy.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Are you still a big Sooner? You pulling for the Sooners this weekend?
Yeah, I am, although I'm also a wagerer, and so with that thought in mind, I like the +1 or +2 for Villanova, but I'll tell you, if North Carolina comes out at less than a 5-point favorite for the title game, I'll be shocked.
Oh yeah, I think so. Well, Dustin Johnson, a South Carolina guy, had a good day today.
He did, and another guy who now lives in your state, but this is a neat story. Scott Brown is in there at -7. Now, Charlie Hoffman is finished, and he ended up at -8. He birdied half of his holes today, and you know, Hoffman had a great year last year, is $4 million plus, and he hasn't done a lot this year. But we asked him about it, and he just said, you know, he's kind of cool and calm about it. I just think I've been playing kind of solid, but I've never been able to put anything, you know, together late. Well, today he got everything together early, and at 8 under 64 is the leader. But Dustin, along with Roberto Castro, and Scott Brown are at 7 under. In fact, there are 20 guys that are lumped in there, 3 shots apart. But the deal about Scott Brown, you know, he lives in Aiken now, but he was born in Augusta, and somebody asked him, said, you know, what's your thoughts, you know, because if you won, obviously you'd be the last qualifier and get in this year. And have you ever played it? And he said, no, I haven't. But he said, then he kind of laughed and he said, I know quite a bit about it. He was born and grew up about 200 yards from the front gate of National.
Yeah.
In Augusta, so
it'd be a great story.
Oh, hey, can you just imagine the kid comes home from 200 yards outside the front gate finally at the age of 23? Huh?
That'd be a great story and a great moment if he can pull it off. But a long way to go till Sunday. What else did you see today that kind of caught your fancy?
Well, it looked like Ricky Fowler was really making a run with 4 holes to go. He was at 5 under, but he gave 2 back coming down, and the other way it looked like that maybe Spieth was they were a threesome apart, and it looked like that maybe Spieth had just flip-flopped it because he was at 4, he dropped back to 3, but then he's playing 18 right now, and he's at 5 under. So, you know, when he's at 5 under, it's like, I suppose it's like if you were at the zoo and the gate was open and the cage for the tiger, you'd be afraid to get too close to the gate. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I think Jordan.
I don't know if that's the best analogy, but
it works for me.
It works for you, huh? That's good. Yeah, but he's perched. Yeah.
And I imagine, you know, Spieth been a little up and down this year, not having the kind of a year from a winning standpoint. But I got to believe now, after what he did last year, he's like the grizzled pros who've won so many tournaments. he's gearing towards Augusta. I'm sure he's trying to get everything in shape so that it all comes together for him next week.
No, I agree, and I would think that anybody in their right mind now would be thinking that, just like I said, he's perched. We'll find out in the next 2 days if he's set there for the final run. But I mean, it wouldn't surprise me. But I'll tell you this, Phil, and this is my gift to you from since we're in Houston and the Final Four is here. I figured out that the only way that you could pick the winner in this field is simply to put the two sports together. So here's what we're doing. You got a 1 seed, two seeds, and a 10 seed in the Final Four. So I'm just telling you that on the final day, atop the leaderboard, as it gets late on Sunday, we should see number 2 world ranked Spieth, the 1 seed, with number 5 Ricky Fowler and number 7 Henrik Stenson, who's been in the top 3 2 of the last 4 years here. They're the bigger 2 seeds, and then Dustin's perfect. He's the Syracuse. He's the 9 seed. So there you go. I got him. That's it. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
That's a good tie-in. Are you how many of the guys, since you brought up the Final Four, how many of the guys will try and sneak away and get over there to watch the Final Four on Saturday? Those that are still in town and playing in the tournament.
Well, I would, I mean, if there's some heavy fan, let me tell you, I think they got a pretty good line here through the Houston Golf Association and the tournament. I think if they want to see it, they can probably get a seat.
Yeah. And they can afford whatever. Most of them can afford
know
whatever
what?
it's going to cost them.
Every time I look up on those lists, when you're going back through and what have you done so far this year, even the guys way down there, I think they can afford the ticket. Although I got to tell you, I was talking with a colleague here today, and he's a sports director at one of the local stations, and he said, watching this game in this arena, he said if you go to the 4 schools, he could understand being there, paying that price, being 300, feet, yards, whatever, 300 feet from the basket. He drew a little diagram for me of how they kind of lay it out, within Reliant. And so, man, after he drew the diagram and then they put the students behind the 2 baskets, but they're back further. And I heard an interesting thing that they've got a drop of some kind in there, a backdrop of some kind. And apparently it does affect the, I don't know if it affects shooting percentage, but it affects, well, I guess it does, because apparently it does have an effect on how you shoot and how you resolve things when you pull up for shots. So it's interesting, but I tell you what, unless I was with a school, like my buddy said, he said, I just don't know how many people from Houston are going. I mean, you can stay home and watch the thing or go to a bar and watch it or whatever and see everything. And there, I guess you want to tell people you're there, and I understand that. But to me, unless you're part of the 4 schools, it'd be tough for me to go in there with that kind of a crowd, whatever it is, 50, 60, whatever it is, that are going to be. It's a lot of people. And when that thing looks like a postage stamp, I'm not excited.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. And plus, you add in the traffic around Houston, which is already bad on a daily basis. Now you throw in the PGA tournament and the Final Four together the same weekend. My goodness. John, thank you so much for the update. We'll talk to you again tomorrow night. Again, at the top leaderboard, Charlie Hoffman, a 64, Dustin Johnson, a 65, Roberto Castro, a 65, Scott Brown, a 65. So 2 South Carolina connections up there at the top of the leaderboard in round 1 of the Shell Houston Open. We'll be right back. Little football coming your way. right, we'll have the comments from Will Muschamp coming up. Yesterday, Clemson had its major scrimmage, second one of the spring. We heard from Dabo Swinney last night, talking mostly about the offensive side of things and some of the standout performers in the scrimmage. How about on the defensive side? Here is defensive coordinator Brent Venables as he answered questions following the scrimmage.
The two freshman linebackers, how are they doing? How are you using them as far as reps and getting them that experience?
Good. They're both good. We got some really good stuff I'm really pleased with. And, then some mental mistakes, all things that you would expect, but both big, strong guys that can run, are physical, like to play, like to be coached. So I've been pleased with them.
Coach Swinney mentioned that Marcus Edmond is someone with whom he's been pleasantly surprised, or is he
He's having a pretty good spring. He is. He's got instinct, he's got a good skill set. He understands football. Being a high school quarterback, pretty good decision making. So it's been good.
Fuller mentioned the other day that the Davis twins have really jumped out at him through spring practice. What have they done to improve?
Consistent. They're super consistent. They know what to do. They react a little bit faster to some things. But they've been consistent, where they're supposed to be. And there's a lot of ingredients in the secret sauce, but that's a big ingredient.
Chad Smith is not a guy that we hear his name mentioned a lot. How's he
You don't
progressing?
ask about him. I'm just reacting to the questions. You tell me to go down the list. That's not Chad's done well. Chad's still improving and maturing in the system, but he makes plays. He gets his hand on balls, and he knows where things are going. And again, just a redshirt freshman. So I've been pleased with Chad, and he keeps making incremental improvements, and somebody that has a chance to help us.
Dabo said the other day he really likes where the linebackers are at this year when he looks at compared to last spring. You feel the same way?
You know so much more, and they do as well. And because sometimes you don't know what you don't know, and so when you had as many of them a year ago that lacked experience, and again, trust me though, I love Blanks and his consistency, and love BJ and Ben. That was a pretty good threesome that knew what to do. But I got more guys now that know what to do, and we're certainly not a finished product by any stretch, but that is noticeable. There's a bunch of engagement in the meetings. A lot of guys answering questions, and can understand football and understand where guys around them are and what their jobs are. So that's pleasing.
As the position coach last year, was it nerve-wracking for you last year going through the season, knowing that you didn't have that last year?
A little bit, yeah. Especially when Kendall was banged up, and we knew from week to week he could go out there on one leg, but he really wasn't ready. And we just had what we had. So, it's you feel a little bit better about that now.
Okay, Brent Venables talking about his defense, some of the younger guys in particular. We'll be right back. Monty Lee coming up. Back we are, Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network, brought to you by the National Wild Turkey Federation. You can help make the world a better place through conservation of North America's greatest game bird and the preservation of our hunting heritage by joining the NWTF. Find out how at nwtf.org/riseandfly. We welcome into the program someone who's probably taken down a wild turkey or two in the wild before, presuming that since he's from Lugoff, and everybody in Lugoff likes to hunt. Monty Lee, you ever shoot a wild turkey?
I love the turkey hunt, Phil. Actually, I killed one last year, killed one the year before that, and I've killed quite a few in my days. I don't get to go as much as I'd like because it's always during baseball season, but I do love the turkey hunt, and I go every opportunity that I can get.
What's your secret? You got a secret place you like to go?
Well, you know, I've hunted. I've hunted in the Low Country of South Carolina. Had my time in Charleston. I got a couple little places up here in Clemson that I'm trying to get permission to hunt, and I think if I can ever get a day to go, I'm going to try to go. But I grew up in Lugoff, so obviously most of my hunting took place in Kershaw County and Fairfield County a little bit. So, but yeah, no, I like the deer hunt. I like the turkey hunt. I like the fish. I didn't grow up playing golf. You know, you grow up in Lugoff, South Carolina, you play baseball and you hunt and fish, and that's pretty much it. So I love to go when I can. Yeah. Sounds good.
I got to drop in this little USC baseball note before I get to you and your Tigers, because they're getting ready to play at Vanderbilt. A couple of changes in the lineup tonight for South Carolina. Here is the rundown. Cone in center, Tolbert at first, Jones behind the plate, Destino DHing, Thompson Williams in left, Bright at third, Hopkins in right, Arendis at second, Mooney at short, and Schmidt on the mound. So Chad Holbrook making a few changes in the lineup from what he's been running out there. As far as your guys, a couple of wins on the road this week, high-scoring affairs in both cases, but in a real battle with Furman the other night in Greenville. But you won both games, so what does it tell you about your team finding ways to win in these midweek games?
Well, the one thing that I can hang my hat on is that our guys are going to show up and compete. I think that's the biggest thing that we will do. Our guys will compete. So offensively, we scored runs in the middle of the week and swung the bats very well, took advantage of some mistakes, and defensively we were okay. Pitching wise, we just got to get back. I think that's the biggest area of concern. Right now we just got to get back to the basics, get back to doing what we did, really the first 20 games of the year, which is just being very, very aggressive over the 17 inches of the plate, just being aggressive, just pounding the strike zone. And once we get ahead, we got to execute pitches. And I think it's, a lot of times with college baseball, with players, once the kid fails, a time or two on the mound, or he starts to struggle a little bit out of the play, they tend to put a little bit of pressure on themselves and try to do too much. And I think that's been the case a little bit for our ball club, over the last week or so. We've probably put a little bit too much pressure on ourselves. Just need to get back to the basics, just being aggressive, throw it over the plate and let them hit it, and hopefully somebody makes a play behind them.
Now, I want to ask you about your pitching, because over the last 5 games, 4 of those, you've given up 9, 10, 7, and 8 runs. And so is there some concern about the pitching coming off the weekend at Miami and through this week, or you still feel good about it?
I think the biggest thing just that we have to do, the one thing that we did such a good job of, through the first 20 games of the year is we did such a good job of getting our leadoff outs. And that's the one area where we've really, really struggled in the last 5 games. If you look at those last 5 games, leadoff guys have been getting on base way too much. And as you know, in baseball, it's a momentum game from an offensive standpoint. You get that leadoff guy on base, and next thing you know, you create that momentum in the other dugout. Too many free passes. We've been giving up too many free passes, and too many guys have been getting on base as leadoff hitters. And that's a recipe for giving up a bunch of runs. And I think if you look, even in last night's game, I thought we did a little better job there until the end of the ball game, until the 9th inning, and we did a pretty good job of of getting leadoff out and executing pitches. Thought Riley Gilliam, true freshman, got his first start against Western, did a nice job. But that's the biggest thing. Miami, if you look at the games in Miami, which were very, very close, we fought our way back in game one to take the lead. But the free pass is something that we got to get back to throwing strikes. Get to strike one. Baseball's not complicated. Get to strike one. Once you get ahead of the hitter, try to get him out within 3 pitches. And if you can do that, you do that over and over and over again, you're not going to give up very many runs. So we just got to get back to that. And I do have confidence in our pitching staff. Every pitching staff is going to go through this at some point or another in a 56-game schedule. But we have seen our guys be successful. So we just got to get back to just taking some of the pressure off ourselves and just being very, very aggressive in the strike zone, throw the ball over the plate, and force contact, and hopefully our guys behind them will make plays.
Talking with Monty Lee, Clemson baseball coach. So Schmidt tomorrow, Barnes on Saturday, and what are you thinking about on Sunday?
Well, what we're thinking on Sunday is, we've got a couple different guys that we could potentially use. But a lot of it, the big reason why we've been leaving the Sunday starter as TBA is because Eubanks has been a guy that has shown that he can have success out of the bullpen, and right now we need a little help out of the bullpen. So, Alex started last Sunday, did not throw in either of the midweek games, so he's fresh and ready to go, and we need to get off to a good start here on Friday against a good Pittsburgh club that's very offensive. So we could use Eubanks out of the pen, and and we have some options as for a starter. We could start an Alex Schnell, who's had a couple starts. If we had to start Jake Higginbotham, who got to start on Tuesday against Furman, we could, but we'd have to limit him because he did start on Tuesday and be pitching on short rest. So, but that's the biggest thing on Sunday is just we'll use who we got to use to help us win Friday and help us win Saturday. And once the dust clears, we'll see who that best option is for us to start game 3. And we'll go from there.
Talking with Monty Lee, what's going on over at third base for you where Jordan Green has started the last couple of games? What's happening over there?
Well, I don't think it's too hard to see. If you look at the stats, we just haven't gotten very good production out of the third base spot. And Jordan Green's a true freshman that is a very aggressive hitter. He's just a little guy that swings a loud bat, very, very aggressive, and he's really more of a second baseman. But as I started to see that we weren't getting the production that we need to be getting at third base, we started hitting Jordan some ground balls at third. He had played some third base in high school, and we started hitting him some ground balls. Been hitting him ground balls, I guess, for about the last week and a half or so, and just felt like when we got to that Furman game, once we got through the Miami series, we had the back-to-back midweek games. That was the perfect time to stick him in there and let him get some time at third base, and he did well. He made a couple of pretty nice plays, and I thought he had a really, really good day for us yesterday at the plate. Did some good things. Got a bunt down, hit a ball hard to center field. Got a big base hit with 2 strikes to driving a run. So we're going to stick with Jordan. We're going to leave him in there and let him go again this weekend and see how he does. And if he can get comfortable at third, to me offensively, he's definitely a guy that can give us some good at bats. The big thing for him is he's just got to get comfortable playing third. Can he play third base at a high level? That's yet to be determined just because he hasn't been over there but for 2 games. All
right, real quick, you expecting Seth Beer back this weekend?
We are. Seth was back today. Seth's, unfortunately, lost his grandfather over the weekend at Miami, and his family and us as coaches, felt like he definitely needed to go and be a part of, be with his family, during a tough time. So, he went to spend time with his family Tuesday, Wednesday. He got back today and practiced with us. He'll be back in the lineup for Friday.
All right, Coach. Thank you as always, Monty Lee here on Sports Talk. big with Founders Federal Credit Union. Founders has convenient office locations at USC, a new location coming soon to Clemson, plus ATMs at Clemson, Converse, Limestone, PC, USC, USC Lancaster, Winthrop, and York Tech. Visit foundersfcu.com for a full listing to find an ATM or office near you. Not a member? Visit relaxjoinfounders.com to see if you qualify for membership. Founders Federal Credit Union, federally insured by NCUA. All right, Will Muschamp, just a little while ago after the Gamecocks spring practice workout of the day, let's catch up with what he had to say.
We a lot of situational work today, got a lot of 1 minute done, and did some red zone, did some move the ball, got off the field, and let the players play. That's what we need to do right now. A couple updates. Connor Mitch has pink eye. He is very infectious, so we did not allow him to come out today. He'll be back hopefully in meetings tomorrow. We're not practicing tomorrow. He'll be back on Saturday. Get that cleared up. And Jalen Christian and I met, and he's going to transfer. Jalen's got some things at home that he needs to handle. And he and I had a long talk on Tuesday about those situations, and very personal to him. And I certainly respect that and respect his decision, and I'm going to try and help him. He's a great young man. We didn't want him to leave, but unfortunately things happen sometimes, and I really appreciate how he's handling the situation. He's handling like a man, and I'm just proud of him, and we're going to do everything we can do to help him transfer and get to a place closer to home, because that's where he needs to be at this time. So disappointed for us in South Carolina, but at the end of the day, it's about the student athlete. April 9th is a spring game again. We need a great crowd. We got the most loyal fan base in the country, and we're going to have a bunch of recruits here, and we need to show them how loyal we are. So we appreciate that. But we've had 10 days in. We'll have a good scrimmage Saturday morning, and we're looking forward to getting back in the stadium. Open up for any questions.
With Connor out, do you have a concern about how many quarterbacks you need just to get through a practice?
Nah, we're fine. We're good. Yeah, he's going to be back Saturday. It's just pink eye. You ever had it?
I don't know that I have.
I have. It'll fun.
Probably put me down for a week.
Slow you down. No, with you it would. Yeah.
That's my
a solid week, maybe more.
Maybe.
If your sources got it. But no, Clinton Haggard called me today about 1 o'clock. I hate to tell you this, but it is what it is. And you can't. It's very contagious, so you can't be around anybody or everybody's going to get it. And you got a problem. So it's one of those things you got to handle. It's unfortunate for Connor and us. So. But it is what it is. We'll be fine.
Will you still expect him to come back next week?
Yeah, sure do.
TJ Smith surgery go?
Yeah, it was outstanding. Good.
Drops, wide receiver drops.
Yeah, we got to get that cleaned up. We had some opportunities there in 1 minute to get the ball moving. We had a pass under pressure period with various downs and distances where we got to stay ahead of the sticks. We had some drops, but on the pleasant part, there were some nice balls being thrown. So that's some credit, Brandon and Michael for that. So we need to catch the ball better on the perimeter. But at the end of the day, we have thrown our installation at our players on both sides purposely, and we're throwing a lot of looks at the quarterback from a coverage and pressure standpoint. We haven't scaled back at all, and we just got to grow through these situations, especially with the young players. So that's part of the deal. But I'd rather do it that way than do it the other way. And so we've got to be able to teach them at an accelerated pace. I told the players at the end of practice, we have a sign in front of our locker room that says, prepared players seldom make bad decisions. Unprepared players often make bad decisions. And the really good players I've been around are the ones that spend time outside the building on football. And they spend time and they think about football. The ones that aren't as successful don't spend much time, and that's part of it.
Norris Smith.
Yeah, he did call it over route from the slot. He has natural hands, and he's got some playmaking ability, and we need some help in position, so he's going to play. Very pleased with KC and Hayden and Kyle coming along well. KC gives us a lot of variety, as Hayden does too, because both guys can stretch the field. They both can block at the point of attack, and they can give you issues on how do you count them defensively. Do you count them as a tight end, or do you count them as a wide out? If they're effective enough blockers, you got to count them as a tight end. You can create some blocking surface issues, some protection issues for the defense, and also be getting some 4 open sets, and that creates some cover down issues. You're going to play as a regular nickel. So there's a lot of question marks there that they present. So I've been very pleased with that.
We see Barry a lot, still with the swing on, going to other quarterback, talking to him. I mean, is that just who he is and kind of what he does?
I think a lot of his intangibles is a talent. That's part of being a good player is having really good intangibles, and he's got those.
You talked about the 10 practices. Is there anything you want to focus on in the scrimmages?
Well, I think, again, we just got to continue to progress with the coaches off the field. As you see our coaches, they love to get out there and tell them what to do. On game day, you can't do that. So it's not about what they know. It's about what our players know. So we got to keep driving that home as much as anything for our players, because a player gets in a comfort level when a coach is telling him every snap how to align, where his eyes are supposed to be, and that's not the way the game's played. So we're going to get off the field Saturday as best we can.
All right, Will Muschamp, back in a moment. Crazy busy show here tonight on Sports Talk. We leave you with one final reminder from the South Carolina Forestry Commission that insects and diseases can be moved hundreds of miles in firewood and threaten our forests, favorite campsites, neighborhoods, state, and national parks. Help protect the trees you love by purchasing firewood at or near where you burn it. For more information, visit don'tmovefirewood.org. All right, let me take a quick peek here at a couple of guys, Matt Connolly from the State and John Whittle from the Big Spur. They are in Nashville to cover South Carolina and Vanderbilt, scheduled for an 8 o'clock first pitch on ESPNU. I was going to check and see their tweets and if the rain has subsided enough and cleared out enough to where they will start on time. And while I wait for this to come up on my screen, there was something else I wanted to mention. Did I mention this earlier that South Carolina? Yeah, we mentioned this with Mike. South Carolina is going to play Seton Hall December 12th at the Garden, and Auburn's going to play Boston College on the other side of.
So that means South Carolina will actually make 3 trips to New York. Aren't they playing Monmouth at the Barclays Center,
Mhm.
and then they're playing Syracuse at the Barclays Center and Seton Hall at the Garden.
Did I mention too? I should have if I didn't. I think I did that the Board of Trustees Board of Trustees is meeting tomorrow. I did mention that too.
1 o'clock is the
1 o'clock to approve the contract for Frank Martin. Probably going to be a 4-year deal at the least, and probably a little more money as well for a job well done this year. Let's see here. Looking here. I'm trying to find information from Vandy. Let's see. Regarding the weather, and nothing there. So I'm just I'm assuming that everything's moving forward there towards first pitch, a little bit after 8 o'clock. This should be a tremendous series between two outstanding teams. And as we mentioned a little while ago, Chad Holbrook changing up the lineup a little bit. Defensively, they had some issues. against the College of Charleston. And I'm thinking he must be thinking this is going to be a series where runs will come at a premium.
Yes.
You can't afford to give Vanderbilt extra outs. You better put your best defensive players out there. And it might come at the expense of some offense there. You know, you got Cullen sitting on the bench. Justino's still in the lineup. He's going to be DHing. So we'll see how it works out for the Gamecocks.
Well, it'll be interesting to see if he sends runners too. I think you got to be aggressive on the base paths against Vandy because, as you said, they can be wild.
K-Mac hopefully will be back tomorrow night. Pro hopefully will be here. I will not have a family function to attend tomorrow night, so I will be gone. So I'll give you a good weekend wishing here, but make sure you're with the guys tomorrow night here on Sports Talk. Thanks for being with us here on Sports Talk.